Hello everyone, welcome. I am doing a Facebook Live today. I wanted to hop on and talk about this very important topic because I know that a lot of girls are self-sabotaging themselves when it comes to their mental health. So I want to talk about this and I want to have a conversation about this. For those of you who are brand new to this group, or maybe you're not familiar with me, I am Brianna. I am hey Kelly. I am a transformation coach for teen girls and young women. And I see the self-sabotage happening all of the time. And it's really important to understand what is going on, what may be going on for your daughter, because this would be contributing to her not wanting to get the help, or maybe you've gotten the help for her and it's not working. There could be a couple of different things going on. So I want to talk about this. So, and if you're coming on, whether you're watching the live or you're watching the replay, please let me know that you're here. I always like to know who's watching this. Doesn't matter if you're watching the replay, same thing. And also comment, let me know if you have questions, whether you're watching the live or the replay. If you have any questions or comments, let me see them below. So let's get into this. So why are girls self-sabotaging themselves, particularly when it comes to their mental health? So I see this happen all of the time, and to be honest, it is frustrating, but I also know what's going on a deeper level. So let's talk about this. So we need to know how the mind works, right? And how the mind operates. So I often say this when I'm having conversations with moms and daughters, because I get a lot of moms reaching out to me. They're interested in my coaching programs. They want to see if it would be a good fit for their daughter, right? So I have these initial, these complimentary calls that I offer, right? And so one of the things that I often say on these calls is that how self-sabotage can work, because oftentimes what happens is a girl may say, yes, I want to get better. Yes, I want to work on my mental health. Yes, I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. But when there's a little bit of effort that's required, or they actually have to do the work, that's when a lot of girls check out. And they're like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. I know I said I didn't want the depression or anxiety, but I also don't want to actually have to put in the work to help myself feel better, right? Self-sabotage. we gotta call it out when it appears, right? So one of the things that I often say on these calls, because I want the girl to understand what's going on a deeper level. So this is how the mind operates, right? The mind freaks out when there's any kind of change going on, because the mind wants, let's talk about your daughter. Your daughter's mind wants to keep everything the same, familiar, and what feels safe, okay? What feels safe is if your daughter is struggling with depression or anxiety, and let's say she's been struggling with it for a year or 2 years or 5 years. That's a long time, right? So there is some safety and familiarity with all of that. So what happens when someone like me comes in, and let's say I start working with your daughter, right? The mind can freak out. Your daughter's mind can literally start freaking out because it's taking her out of her old story and putting her into the unknown, okay? And the mind doesn't want to go into the unknown because it's scary. So what happens so much, and what I see that goes on with this whole self-sabotage, is that the mind tries to pull her back to who she's been, right? Her old story that's no longer serving her. So what is that old story, right? Well, if she's dealing with depression, if she's dealing with anxiety, if she's just dealing with really horrible self-esteem, the mind is going to try to bring her back to that place because that's what's comfortable and that's what feels familiar. I'm not saying it feels good, Because I know for a fact that anxiety and depression does not feel good. It doesn't feel good at all, but it feels safe and familiar for someone who's been dealing with it for years, right? And so if they start doing the work on themselves and then they're moving into, let's say, being confident, let's say feeling peaceful and more relaxed, and like all of these new things, the mind doesn't know what to do with that, right? And so this is where the self-sabotage comes in. And how does it come in? Well, it can come in with all the excuses that your daughters are gonna make. They'll say, this is dumb, this isn't working for me, right? Maybe you send your daughter to a therapist, or maybe, you try a different approach, and your daughter will come up with excuses. Now, where are those excuses coming from? It's coming from her mind, because her mind doesn't actually want her to get better, right? So here's what some of those excuses sound like. Well, like I said before, this isn't working for me. This is dumb. This is stupid. Another excuse could be, I don't have time for this, right? Which this is why it's so important. I spoke about this in a previous Facebook Live. Mental health needs to be a priority for every single girl and young woman out there, and it's not. And so when girls give the excuse of, I don't have time for this, that's absolutely not true. That's a bunch of bull, right? but they say it, and they like, well, yeah, I don't have time. I'm really busy. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So I don't have time to work on my mental health. That's absolutely not true. That's absolutely not true, but that's the excuse that her mind gives her, right? Or what are some other excuses that I hear often? I think a lot of girls just give the excuse of like, this isn't gonna work for me. Like some girls will even say it before they even try something. Like it's not gonna work. And what happens is, what's going on is the ego is coming in. So the ego is the part of the mind, and it's defending this old identity, okay? The old identity is the depression. The old identity is the anxiety. And when I work with girls and young women, I gotta take them out of that old identity and get them into the new identity, right? But we have to move past that self-sabotage in order for your daughter to get there. And here's the deal. I'm not a magician. Yes, I'm not a magician. So some girls I can help get over here, okay? Other girls I can't. What's the difference with the girls that I can get over here to their new identity, right? Their new identity being self-love, self-compassion, being happy, right? Waking up every day feeling good about themselves, right? That can be the new identity. But what is the difference with the girls that I'm able to get over here and the other girls that self-sabotage themselves so much that I can't bring them over? Well, some girls, their egos are so strong that they are adamant. They're like, no, this is not gonna work. And what is happening is their ego, their mind is holding on so tightly to this old story that's no longer serving them. Please let me know if this is making sense. If it's not making sense, let me know and I'll clarify. But their ego is holding on to their old identity because they don't know, their ego, their mind doesn't know who they'll be without it. Okay? So this is why when I work with girls, I focus so much of our time and our energy is focused on where their old identity and where they want to be with their new identity. Most girls are living in the world of complaining, of lower vibration, of the negative thinking, that my life is never going to change. Nothing's ever going to, get better. I'm always going to feel this way. So guess what? What they put out is what they get back. It's as simple as that. So if your daughter is living in that vibration, she's going to get more of the things that she doesn't like. So she attracts more depression. She attracts more anxiety. She attracts all the things that she doesn't want to feel anymore. So how does she get on the other side of that? Well, it's really interesting because most girls don't spend any time on their new identity. They spend all their time complaining and like, oh, my life is horrible, I hate it. They spend all that time over there so they get more of it, and they spend no time focusing on where they want to be in their lives. Okay, this is like big work that I do with the girls and young women that I work with, because they've got to get out of that lower vibration in order to live the life that they want to live. Most girls don't even know the life that they want to live because they're so stuck in where they don't want to be that they can't see anything outside of it. And this goes back because this is the identity that they've created for themselves. So if they're so focused, if they're so like, that's all they see is where they are, that they can't see anything in the future for what they want to step into, then they're going to have a really hard time ever getting out of it. They're going to be stuck for a long time because they've got to take themselves out of where they are and start living from a place of where they want to be. And no, this is not simple work, and no, your daughter will not be able to do it on her own. This is why it's so important to have a coach. This is why it's so important to have a mentor to help your daughter do this work, because I guarantee you she's not going to be able to do it on her own. Maybe she thinks she will. Maybe she thinks in an imaginary world, she thinks that she'll be able to help herself out of this. But if that was actually the case, she would have already done it, right? I speak with some girls and like, you know, some of the girls are like, well, I'm just going to figure this out on my own. Like, I've got this. Okay, do you really have this? Do you really know what to do? Do you really know what it's going to take to change your life? I don't think so. Because if you knew, you would have already done it by now, right? So this is why it's so important to work with somebody else that can help your daughter get them to where they want to be. One problem that I see very often with therapy is that they keep focusing on what your daughter doesn't want. Because if therapy becomes a venting session, then it feels good in the moment, right? It feels good for your daughter to get all that stuff out of her, right? The things that she's been thinking about, her problems, the challenges. It feels good to vent in the moment. But long-term results or long-term change, just by venting, your daughter won't get that. And when we focus on the problems and the stuff that we don't want, your daughter gets more of that. So that's why it's so important. We have to look at like, well, is your daughter getting what she needs out of therapy? The answer should be really clear. You really shouldn't even have to think about it. Because if your daughter is in therapy right now, and if let's say, I mean, it takes a little while to see if there are results, but I would say like after a month, you should at least be seeing something, okay? Some change, something. If you're not seeing anything and your daughter has been going to therapy for months, years, then you have to look at like, well, what are they doing in therapy? Like, do you ever ask yourself that? I know like therapy is usually just like, it's the therapist and your daughter and you're not a part of it unless it's like family counseling, right? But what is your daughter doing in therapy? Is it actually helping her get to the next level of her life? Or is it keeping her exactly where she's at? That's one question you've got to ask yourself. Because I don't want, some of you moms, I don't want you wasting more time your daughter being in therapy if it's not working. If it is working, great. Keep her there. That's amazing. But if it's not, you've got to look at what's being done, right? So going back to the self-sabotage, right? And this is all subconscious. Your daughter isn't going around thinking, ha ha ha, I'm going to self-sabotage myself today. It's going to be really great. Your daughter is not, she's not thinking that because self-sabotage is subconscious. She's not consciously aware that she is doing it, right? Here's the other thing that goes into this. Like a lot of girls feel like they're victims in their lives, right? So like if your daughter's been struggling with depression for a while, right? Years maybe. If your daughter has been dealing with mental health challenges, if your daughter has been dealing with anxiety for years, she may actually feel like she is a victim in her life. This is another reason why how the self-sabotage comes in, because if she feels like she's a victim, right, she's going to hold on to that victim mentality. She doesn't want anyone to take it away from her because that's who she thinks she is. So if you put her in a program or if you put her with a therapist and like that's all like that she wants to believe about herself, and then when people argue with the fact that she's not a victim, then she may get angry with them. Then she might like disregard what they have to say. But no. You don't understand. Like and this is kind of like the talk track that these girls go through. It's like, but you don't understand. Like this happened to me, this trauma, I went through this, and then this friend did this to me, and this boyfriend dumped me. And as long as they continue that narrative, they get more of being a victim because they don't know how to get on the other side of it. So, but this also plays into self-sabotage because your daughter may very well be self-sabotaging herself as long as she sees herself as that victim. Nobody's a victim. Your daughter can actually see herself as a survivor, as an owner of her life, as the creator of her life. She can absolutely see herself as that. But she's going to have to do a little work to get to that point because it's not just going to come like that. Okay? So this is why I hope I'm being clear with all of this, but self-sabotage is the biggest reason. If your daughter is not getting better, I guarantee you it's because of self-sabotage, and it's no other reason other than self-sabotage. And so it's really important that so like, how do you overcome self-sabotage? Well, some girls, it's like they're holding on to it so tightly that sometimes there's nothing you can do. Like you may even be like, hey, check out like Brianna's stuff. Like you may want to be in Girl Tribe, or maybe you want to have a call with her to see about her coaching program, right? Maybe some of you have already been down that route. And what does your daughter say? Like some of you, you have daughters that say, no, I don't need help. Whether they're in denial or they are literally just self-sabotaging themselves. Because if they actually changed and if they actually transformed, they would be someone completely new. And that freaks the mind out. And the ego doesn't want that. So it's easier to stay stuck. It's easier to stay a victim. It's easier to stay in the woe of life. And things are crap. And this is just the way it's going to be. And that's where a lot of girls live. And I really hate that. I'm going to be dead serious. I really hate when girls are living in that place. Because life is not good from that standpoint. And it won't ever be good as long as they live there. So it's really important. Now, what can you do as a parent, whether you're, a mother or a father, like what can you do for your daughter if she is self-sabotaging, right? It's not like you can actually like creep in her mind, in her ego and change it. so she'll stop self-sabotaging herself. But what you can do is have these conversations with your daughter. Like talk to her about where she's at. Get her to open up with you. Work with your daughter so she can see that where she's at is a choice. A lot of girls don't feel that way. They feel like they've gotten a bad hand, almost as if it was like a card game. I got a bad hand in life, right? They feel like, some girls may feel like, it's just not working out for me. I guess this is just the way that life is going to be. That's not true. That's not true at all. So you can actually help your daughter a lot by having these deeper conversations, getting her to open up to you. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the one to be able to help her transform, but you can be the catalyst for change, meaning that you can start these conversations to get her to see something different. Because I guarantee you, a lot of the parents that reach out to me that are interested in my coaching programs, like, they have to talk to their daughters about this. This is not just a like, oh, I'm going to drag my daughter over into this coaching program that Brianna is offering. They have to have the conversations with their daughters. They have to like get their daughters to see that there's more to life than what they have been living, right? So this may be something that you need to do more of, right? Just trying to open up your daughter's eyes to what else is possible for her life. Because being stuck and being a victim and the constant self-sabotage is not serving your daughter. It's not at all. You know that. You know that already. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching this Facebook Live. So with that, that's what I want to say. If you have any questions, whether you're watching the live or you're watching the replay, if you're just coming on now, I'm just wrapping up, but definitely watch this because it is important if your daughter is self-sabotaging herself. And this is the number one reason why girls are not getting better. And it's sad to see, but we can be doing more to help them out of it. And sometimes you'll be able to, and the honest truth is sometimes you won't be able to. And that's hard for me to say, but it's the truth, right? You can't, like, I can't drag anyone to transform their lives just like you can't. You can't drag your daughter into doing this work on herself. But what you can do is open up the door to having these kinds of conversations. If you're not already going in deeper, trying to get your daughter to open up. If she's unwilling, if she's not doing that, you open up first. And then if at some point she is willing, reach out to me. I've got Girl Tribe, I've got group coaching, I've got private coaching, I've got lots of things that I do with girls and young women to help them transform their lives. It's all here. Reach out if you have any questions, or if you know that if you want me to help your daughter, reach out to me, send me a private message. With that, I'm gonna go. Have an amazing rest of your day. Have an amazing weekend, and I will see you all soon. Mwah! Bye for now.